Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. These HOAs are the best representation of America. You can do whatever you want until someone else thinks it costs them money in the long run. I just don't understand. Why are people so obsessive and anal about grass? But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Neighbor complained to the HOA about my yard. So I have a Karen for a neighbor. She's a grumpy old C with a live-in son in his 40s and no other family or friends. And when I say she's a Karen, we're talking to the point that she came into my property to yell at our landscaper about a boulder he was installing on our property, something about believing it would fall over onto more of our property. A few months after we moved in, we received a letter trying the HOA saying they'd received complaints and asking that we make sure we're mowing, watering, and maintaining. I chalked it up to moving into a nicer neighborhood and made an effort to mow twice a week instead of my normal once, added a little time to the sprinklers, and figured all was good. Apparently it was not all good, as we received another letter stating the complaints had continued and the HOA wanted to talk with us to see what the problem was. I should note we just moved in not that long ago and hadn't landscaped the back yet, so we're letting our dogs pee on the front at night, which led to the inevitable patches of bright green grass that grows stupid fast. Now, I'll freely admit I don't keep my yard to the level of some of my neighbors, but it was in perfectly good shape outside of some green spots in an otherwise average-looking yard, and I do my best to keep things mowed and looking decent. Turns out Grumpy C had taken real offense to this and started complaining to the HOA. The hearing ended up being mostly incoherent rambling, but the bottom line was she didn't like how our lawn looked with the green spots. While the HOA agreed this was not her business and definitely not theirs, I decided she was right and we should stop letting our dogs out in the front to pee, as I also don't like the green spots. Now I put them on a leash and let them do their business in her yard, read tree lawn, and I'm clearly not the only one, as her entire yard is now covered in pee spots and dead spots on her actual lawn, which my dogs don't step for on. I'm pretty sure she's complained about everyone with a dog, and now the entire neighborhood takes their dogs to her yard. The best part, she actually does a crap job taking care of her lawn, weeds and crabgrass everywhere. She just waters it almost non-stop. So today, I got to report her to the HOA for her yard looking like total crap. If it were any other house, they're so much worse, I wouldn't care at all, but this lady wanted lawns without spots, so I'm just doing my part to enforce her rules. Edit. To everyone hating on HOAs. They're hit and miss for sure, but in this case, they didn't do anything but tell me someone complained and then tell her I wasn't violating any rules and they weren't going to be involved. Also, HOAs are often surprisingly easy to take over. You just have to skip the whining about how terrible they are and do the work instead. If the HOA is that bad, talk to some neighbors, tell them you're going to run for the board, and get them to vote for you. Then help others do the same, and remember what you hated about the previous board. Be forewarned, everyone finds a reason to complain. No one is willing to help out. When you buy a home within the jurisdiction of an HOA, you kind of make your own bed, unless you have the endurance to dismantle the whole thing. And our second story. Farewell, my unlovely neighbors. This happened in mid-January of last year. My husband and I have a 2-year-old and had been living in an apartment of the sort for a few years before he was born. For a very long time, we had nice neighbors who understood that if they played music or anything of the sort, it would need to be low because the walls were paper thin. Seriously, you could hear footsteps some days, and if you put on the TV, it could be heard on both sides. It was okay though. See, our neighbors lived there for a very long time. We could have conversations through the walls if we wanted, but they were considerate of me and my husband if we were doing our marital duties, which we learned to be quiet about. The point is they were nice. But then the husband inherited around $300K and they bought a house in the suburbs, which left our neighbor's old apartment empty for a while. Until these a-holes moved in. I'll call them Jerk 1 and Jerk 2. Jerk 1 and Jerk 2 were fresh out of college and liked to have loud parties that consisted of many loud other jerks. I had a not even 6 months old child and he needed to effing sleep, along with my husband who worked 7 to 6 each day at the time, teacher. My first attempt at asking them to quiet down was not well received, as they called me an old crap and proceeded to turn up the music louder. So I called the cops. The cops knock on their door and they ask the guys to turn the music off, so they finally comply. I can tell they're pissed because I keep hearing my name and Craphead B in the same sentence. So the issue, the guys know who called the police on them, and so they start terrorizing me during the day, stealing my parking space, playing porn loudly through and up to the walls, and having huge parties ensuring they wake up me, my husband, and my child. I do not like being kept up until 4 o'clock in the morning because my baby's having a fit due to the loud music. I decided to call the landlord, who basically told me that if I had a problem with them, I should handle it myself since he had better things to do and they were paying high rent for the apartment. So that's what I did. I handled it myself. Instead of sleeping like a normal person, I bought some enormous speakers and put them up to the wall. The wall, which you already know, does not keep out any noise. I waited until they either passed out or turned off the music so they could get a little sleep, and when the guests started to leave and I start playing loud nursery rhymes, my husband and child are having a blast. Child is loving it as he slept during the day when the two jerks were at work. As for Jerk 1 and Jerk 2, they ended up getting pissed and telling us that they would call the cops on us if we didn't turn that lame crap off. So we did what they did. We turned up the volume and waited for the cops to show up. The luck we had was the same cop who we first called. He listened to our story, laughed, and then went to Jerk 1 and Jerk 2 next door with orders that if they played music loud again, they would be arrested for disturbing the peace. The jerks still didn't learn their lesson, and the day after, as my husband is going to work, Jerk 1 begins arguing with him and punching him a few times. Jerk 2 thinks it's hilarious and records the whole thing, spewing insults the entire time. Now my husband doesn't fight, because if he did, he could get in trouble with his job. So after being assaulted by a man who clearly didn't realize the consequences, the cops were called by me. This resulted in Jerk 1 being taken into custody and charged with assault and battery, with Jerk 2 being charged with abetting. Here's the juicy part. Jerk 2 was on probation for having illegal substances of some sort, and it got him thrown back in jail. As for Jerk 1, he got off easy enough, except he was evicted by my landlord. We moved out a few months later. As far as I know, it hasn't been rented out yet due to the wall problem. This is amazing. I hope your husband's okay and you're back to relative happiness. And our last story. My neighbors cut down our trees to improve their view. So this is not my story, but my parents'. However, they don't know the internet, so I'll tell the story for them. So I live with my parents, and they parents decided they wanted a holiday house that they can work on and have to get away from life. When we moved in, we talked to the neighbor. On one side is nice neighbors, a lovely couple who have just moved into their first house, and on the other side are entitled neighbors who rent their house to any people who want to have parties. When we look around the garden, we see 3 very tall trees, healthy trees, which have probably taken about 200 years to grow. And as we're on a dip, these trees block the view of the house on the other side of the dip very well from seeing into my parents' bedroom and bathroom, which doesn't have curtains on the windows. I think you can see what's about to happen. We have to go back to our other house so my mom can go back to work when my mom gets a call from the nice neighbors, and this conversation ensued. Hey, you need to come back here right now. The entitled neighbors are on your property with chainsaws, and I don't know what they're planning to do. Wait, what? Can you stop them? I'm so sorry, but my ferry's about to leave and I need to go to work. However, I can call the police if you want. I know all of them very well, so they'll come quickly. Yes, please. I will get my dad to get on the next ferry and get there as fast as he can. However, when the police got there, they were gone. I had just gotten out of school, and because my dad needed to pick me up, I went with him to see what had happened. When we get there, we see this view. The 3 trees are gone, and what is left are 3 very hacked-at tree stumps and some glass. They had cut down our trees and in the process smashed part of the glass wall around the deck. Hearing chainsaws, we look over, there's no fence yet, and we see 3 mid-30 men cutting wood up, probably for firewood. This is when the entitlement really starts. Hey, why did you cut down our trees? Oh, hey, we were just looking over to your side and noticed that if these trees fell, they could really mess up your house. And being new neighbors, we thought we should do the neighborly thing of cutting them down for you. A sort of new neighbors helping each other out. What? Those trees were really healthy. Also, you trespassed and cut down our tree without our consent. We're calling the police on you. The neighbor got so angry at my dad for saying this. What the heck, dude? We improved your view and made sure the trees wouldn't hit your house. We helped you. Why to call the police? Now my dad hates being called dude. It's like swearing to him, so getting angry, also being a lot stronger and bigger than them, so he just walked inside while I stayed standing there, not really knowing what to do. Then the oldest, like 40 years old, looks at me and says, "Hey, sweetie, if you stop your dad from calling the police, we'll give you an ice cream." I just turned around and walked inside, as the way he said it was so creepy. Fast forward about a week, and we find out that the trees they cut down actually blocked their view of the sea, and them cutting the trees down, the view helped their rental. They have been fined a lot of money, I mean a lot, and have to do some community work as well as pay enough money to put up a fence so that we don't have to see them anymore. Entitled neighbors have also started to rent out, so hopefully we don't ever have to see them again. Yeah, some people are not the brightest. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.